power of the heart. Finding your inner wisdom.
The power of the heart.
Finding the power of the
Finding the
heart.
power of the heart.
The power of
Power
the
of the heart. Power of the heart.
让我们寻回心的力量。The
Power of the heart.
Thank you for joining us today. My name is Yuru Chao. You are tuning in to the Power of the Heart on Dai Radio. In Tzu Chi, there's a type of volunteers whose function is to record the history of Tzu Chi through filming. Here is a volunteer story. Mr. Liao Shun Ren is a Tzu Chi volunteer who dedicated himself to filming the work of Tzu Chi Foundation. For more than 10 years, he has covered many events for the Dai television station and making of Tzu Chi history. One of his most memorable moments came in 2003 after the outbreak of SARS shook the world. Earlier that year, he bought a new video recorder. With that, he was assigned to cover a hospital called Heping, which was chosen as quarantine center for SARS patients. People told him not to go and said, "You are going to your own death." With a sense of duty and a desire to help, his reply was, "We are not going to our death. We are going to rescue people." As he said so, he calmed his own nerve and the queasiness in his stomach. When he reached the scene, he was given the full protective gear, including gowns and N95 masks. After being briefed, he started to film the exterior of the hospital. At that time, the patient's family were registering with Tzu Chi volunteers to pass items to their family member quarantined inside. Some even prepare extra as gifts for the Tzu Chi volunteers. These tiny gestures of love warm volunteers' heart and become the Great Love Shining Brightly program on Dai television. At the end of his shift, Mr. Ruo was very impressed by certified Tzu Chi volunteers in their uniform, who move in an orderly fashion wherever they went. Their gentleness and yet impressive strong sense of duty and respect made them look like living bodhisattva coming out of Buddha's teaching. From that moment on, he pledged to be a certified Tzu Chi volunteer and a disciple of Dharma Master Cheng Yen forever. Mr. Ruo volunteers as a member of Tzu Chi's documentation team in Taipei. He has a loving family with a son and daughter. Also, he works in a custom brokerage firm at Taoyuan International Airport, which is a family-owned business by his parents. Since a young age, he has a strong interest in photography and often helps his friends as their wedding photographer. Soon after he joined Tzu Chi in October 2002, he jumped on the class offered by Dai television station for photography volunteer training. During the training, he was touched and inspired by the media volunteers from all over the world, including senior citizens who were the age of his grandparents, as well as disabled people, who joyfully dedicate themselves to the September 21st Taiwan earthquake recording project. Joining Dai TV media volunteer training was a milestone for him. He realized that volunteering to do media work would allow him to see all the touching stories around the world. By recording real-life stories, he could share people's experience and be constantly reminded to improve himself. Later, he would go right after work to learn from experienced volunteers about film editing. After he learned how to edit, he would handle everything from filming to production by himself to record the history of his time. Through many practices, his work has attained professional level in telling true story of innate kindness and beauty. In one of the interviews he recorded, Miss Wu was a heroine who did not let her paralysis stop her from living a positive life. When she went on stage to share her story of recovering from feeling sorry and finding that strength inside herself to move on again and being thankful for every second of her life, he was inspired to tears as he recorded the entire sharing. Such extraordinary touching moment could only be experienced after joining Tzu Chi. Being a multimedia volunteer, he has the great mission to record the history of Tzu Chi and our changing times. Therefore, he is committed to his original aspiration and ambition, that is to record the pure and beautiful human culture. He could still remember clearly how strongly his wife objected to his joining of Tzu Chi at the very beginning. She feared that he would neglect his family with time spent elsewhere. So he made a secret vow: if my wife allows me to volunteer with Tzu Chi, I will fight to do all the house chores. He started by changing himself. Pleasing his wife became his top priority. Even just going out on a half-day outing deeply moved his wife. He would often call his wife's parents to talk with them. Therefore, his family was always filled with joy and love. Learning from his favorite Zhi Si aphorism, an open heart brings good fortune. Whenever obstacles appear, he knows as long as he opens his heart and sincerely look after others, many helping bodhisattvas will come and join him to solve the challenge together. His mother, despite being over 70 years old, is an enthusiastic recycling volunteer. After he finishes work, he will rush to help his mother to arrange recycling bins and plastic storage bags. Because, he said, I don't know how much longer I can do recycling with my mother. As long as it's what she loves to do, I'll be happy to do it with her. Being an understanding and caring son, he learned the enduring strength of patience in Tzu Chi, and has since practicing it to love his family and his parents. From this volunteering story, we bear witness to the true power of our mind. It can create heaven or hell for us and lead us to do good or evil. Therefore, we need to become more aware of our thoughts and the direction of our mind at all times. In our program today, we'll begin with a reading of Master Cheng Yan's teaching on awareness is the power of repentance. It is the power to turn things around. If we understand the power of the mind, this reading is provided by Dharma Master Derling. Then, after a short break, we'll discuss this teaching with Ms. Chen Yihua, who is also a media volunteer as well as a person seeking a monastic life in Jingsi abode.
As life becomes love, you live in my embrace, together with the stream has grown, boundless as the sea. I will wait by your window for your candle to light. When we are holding hands, broken dreams will return to life. At last I believe there is love in each and every seed. Inside our hearts, slowly ripening.
Dai Radio is just a click away. You can listen to Dai Radio anywhere in the world.
The Power of the Heart, Part 4, To Turn Things Around, The Power of Repentance. Today we will be listening to the teaching on Understanding the Power of the Mind. Our mind is very powerful. The Buddha once described the mind as being like an artist. With the stroke of his brush, the artist can paint all sorts of things, bring to life whatever is in his mind. We create our world in a similar way. For example, today's cities were once a piece of wilderness. As people decided to make use of this land, they began to develop it according to the plans in their minds. The vegetation was cleared, buildings were put up, roads were paved, and other infrastructure was put in. Everything that came to be on the land was formulated from the human mind. Isn't this like the artist creating different scenes in the world? Looking around, all that we have around us is a product of the human mind. Yet, our minds are hardly ever at peace, resting in contentment. Instead, driven by our desires, we continually conjure up new plans to create more and more projects, never satisfied. With all our never-ending pursuits, we create chaos in our minds and lose ourselves. When our minds are chaotic, our actions become wrong, and such actions create many problems. Therefore, it is of utmost consequence that we recognize the importance of having right thoughts and taking good care of our mind. If we are able to take good care of our mind, we can be like a Buddha. If we do not look after it, we may become like an animal without wisdom. In Buddhism, we speak of the 10 realms of existence: heaven and hell, the realms of humans, animals, hungry ghosts, and asuras, as well as the realms of the Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Buddhas. The first 6 are mundane, unenlightened realms. The latter 4 are saintly realms with different degrees of enlightenment. Depending on the direction of our thoughts, we can experience any of the 10 realms. With a compassionate, wise thought, in that moment, we can be in an enlightened realm. With a greedy, stingy thought, we can be in an unenlightened one. In the course of one day, we can go through all 10 realms. Whether we are like a Buddha or an animal, all depends on whether the thoughts in our mind are wholesome or unwholesome. It all hinges on the direction or nature of our thoughts. That is why we must take good care of our mind. The mind as the origin of good and evil. In life, we all do both right and wrong. In Buddhism, we say that good and evil are empty in nature because they do not intrinsically exist. They arise as a product of causes and conditions. For example, why do we do wrong things? It is often because we are tempted by the external world, and this is due to our senses. As our senses make contact with the external environment, temptation arises and we do something we shouldn't. If our senses had not encountered the conditions, temptation would not have arisen and we would not have carried out the wrong actions. In this way, many of our wrongdoings are committed as a result of our 6 sense organs: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. This all happens because when our senses encounter the external environment, we react. Oftentimes, we react by giving rise to unwholesome states of mind, and acting on these, we do things that are wrong. We end up creating a lot of afflictions and troubles for ourselves. If we are mindful and aware, we can avoid this. This is the meaning of taking good care of our mind. Whether we do good or evil depends on what thoughts we have in our mind. In our relations with others, we can choose to be generous and giving, or to be petty and competitive. We can choose to work with others for the collective good, or to be in opposition with others for self-interest. It all depends on the direction of our thoughts. What direction shall we choose? We need to understand that what we do creates causes and conditions, and we will eventually reap the consequences. All people, no matter rich or poor, clever or simple-minded, undergo karmic retribution. No one is above this natural law. If we can look after our mind and take care of our thoughts, we can keep from creating negative karma. Creating unwholesome causes. Through our deeds, our words, and our thoughts, we create a lot of wrongdoing without being aware of it. Thus, we sow karmic seeds, and the conditions we experience now are their fruits. For example, we may encounter people who do not like us. This is because we have somehow formed negative karmic affinities with them sometime in the past. When we created the cause, we were unaware. In fact, we have created many unwholesome causes unawares. But if we can begin to be aware, we can make changes. The following illuminates some common ways we create unwholesome causes. Lost in the past or future. Our mind often runs wild with fantasies. If someone had mistreated us in some way, again and again we relive in our minds the wrong that they did us. We may also fantasize about how to get back at them. Lost in these thoughts, we are not present to our surroundings or actual circumstances. These all constitute deluded thinking. Thinking about the past or the future doesn't help us. When we do so, we often lose touch with the present moment. What is most important is to take hold of this moment and put into action our resolutions. Different kinds of attachments. In reaction to external circumstances, we develop many attachments. These attachments can take the form of desire or craving, but there is also attachment to views or notions. For instance, we may become upset with someone over a small matter. Because of our personality, we cannot just let it go. If we cannot do this, we will always be getting into conflicts with others, and we will make ourselves miserable. In our spiritual practice, however, we should cultivate a broad and pure heart towards others, a heart that is tolerant, forgiving, and not petty. We can do this if we can realize that our inner state of mind need not be influenced by external circumstances, and train our mind not to become attached or tainted. The vicious cycle. Taking care of our heart and mind is truly important. If we do not do so, we will develop more and more inner impurities and delusions. It will then become harder for us to cultivate ourselves and engage in spiritual practice. Our unwholesome habits will get in the way, causing us to react to people with a petty mind and accumulate more wrong actions. In Buddhism, we speak of the 10 unwholesome acts of the body, speech, and mind. With the body, we can commit killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. In our speech, we do wrong by speaking abusively, telling lies, using insincere flattery, or gossiping and bearing tales to create division and conflict. In our mind, we give rise to greed, anger, and ignorance. If we are not mindful, we will habitually commit these 10 unwholesome acts. As we do so, we accumulate more and more afflictions, which cause us to carry out further wrong actions. In turn, our hearts become even more tainted. It is a vicious cycle. The consequences can lead to a devastating downward spiral. So we truly need to be mindful and take good care of our heart and mind. Reflections. Our mind is truly powerful. It can create heaven or hell for us and lead us to do good or evil. Therefore, if we wish to avoid taking the wrong turn in life, we will need to become more aware of our thoughts and the direction of our mind. We have already made many mistakes, and that is why we need to repent. Repenting is not only about realizing our errors and being remorseful for them. We also need to make a fresh start and not repeat the mistakes. Because our mind determines our actions, and the arising of an unwholesome thought can lead us astray. To truly begin anew, we will need to take good care of our heart and mind, always.
Hello everyone, my name is Chen Yihua. I'm from Hualien, Taiwan. My favorite Jingzi aphorism is, one who constantly looks down on others reveals his lack of cultivation. This teaching from Master Zheng Yan helps me to be free of ego and expand my heart. My wisdom and inspiration be with you always.
You are listening to the Power of the Heart on Da'ai Radio.
Our special guest today is Miss Yihua Chen. She volunteers at the video production department at Jingsi Abode. She edits video and set up filming background. However, her degree from college is childhood development, and her graduate degree is in religious study. Her favorite activity is reading. However, with her busy schedule at producing documentary films here, she wishes that she has more time for reading. She lives at the Jingsi Abode now and follows the cultivation path. Welcome to the program, Yihua. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Why do you choose cultivation as your life direction?
I was a Tzu Qing several years ago. Tzu Qing means Tzu Chi college age volunteers. Why did I choose to join the Tzu Qing group when I was a university student? This just because I want to help other people. A very simple reason. At that time, I recognized Tzu Chi and Master Zhen Yan. I take a lot of Tzu Chi activities, Tzu Qing activities, and I love Tzu Chi. And then I also love and respect Master Zhen Yan. So, Master Zhen Yan, everyone know, she is a spiritual practitioner, and I think Master Zhen is a model for me. I hope to learn all things from her. So I also hope I can become a spiritual practitioner one day. So this is why I choose cultivation as my life direction.
That is a very big vow that you have made to walk on this path, because as many people often ask, how can someone give up worldly possession and focus just on cultivation? And I believe that's because you recognize the power of the heart. Our mind is truly powerful. It can create heaven or hell for us and lead us to do good or evil. Therefore, if we wish to avoid taking the wrong turn in life, we'll need to become more aware of our thoughts and the direction of our mind. And that's probably why you decided cultivation is the way to go and you want to cultivate. Thank you for sharing with us your thoughts on that. Now, what is in Jingsi Abode that makes you decide this is the place to be? Because there are many practice grounds for you to choose from, but you choose Jingsi Abode for a reason. Can you share with us your reason?
I think this is the same reason, because I am Master Zhen Yan's disciple, so it is natural for me to come back Jingsi Abode to cultivate.
And what's your aspiration that you hold dear in your heart, regardless of obstacles and challenges along the way?
Yeah, I think this is a very important question. When I face some difficulties or obstacles, I always ask myself, why did I join Tzu Chi when I was a university student? It was a very young person, but I think this just because I want to help others. So I remind myself that if I keep the pure heart and the simple mind every time, I could overcome any difficulties.
Yes, indeed. If I remember our original aspiration and keep working on the path that we have set out to do, and never deter or fall apart from the path that we set ourselves to achieve, then all the obstacles and difficulties will naturally just disappear, because compared to our original aspiration, that everything will seem clear and we'll know how to deal with them. So talking about Master's teaching, how do you interpret a master's teaching about the power of the mind?
I think compassion means people treat others sincerely. I think it's very important.
Indeed, compassion and wisdom are the two most positive and most powerful forces of our mind. If we can always bring forth our compassion and wisdom, then there is no more difficulty in this world, or anything can be as clear and as simple when we seize it, and we'll know what we need to do to take care of our everyday life as well as people around us and all the people in need. So we see that our mind is very powerful, and that is why Buddha once described the mind as being like an artist. With the stroke of his brush, the artist can paint all sorts of things, bringing to life whatever is in his mind. So we want to bring forth the most beautiful picture as our life, if that's possible. And that's why we need to nurture compassion and wisdom at all times. Our time is up today. We'll be listening to this book over the next several episodes. Please join us next time to continue our discussion on the power of the heart. If you want to read this book we're talking about, you can find a copy of this book in any Jingsi bookstore and cafe. For more teaching from Dharma Master Cheng Yen, please tune in next time to our program. Goodbye and have a great day.
I'll find the beauty of 自己 with the world in our embrace, and close friends gather from everywhere. We transcend all boundaries. I'll find the goodness of 自己. Winter's cold turns into spring as we walk the Bodhisattva's path. Joy and serenity we bring. On this day we meet together hand in hand. Great compassion is our home. With a silent prayer for humankind, we walk a peaceful road. On this day we meet together hand in hand. Great compassion is our home. With a silent prayer for the whole wide world, may all lives know happiness. I'll find the goodness of 自己. Winter's cold turns into spring as we walk the Bodhisattva's path. Joy and serenity we bring. On this day we meet together hand in hand. Great compassion